This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode 247. Once again, we are bi-coastal.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And it looks like we're gonna probably just miss each other for a little. Man, we're not gonna see each other in the flesh for a little while.
No, we're not, but last night I had the first U.S. screening, also will happen by this airs, it'll be a few nights ago, of Artist Depression, Anxiety, and Rage at the Philosophical Research Center. And in conversation with Michelle Forbes of Homicide, Life on the Street, True Blood, California, etc., it was fantastic.
Oh, congratulations! It
Yeah,
sounds like it went
Jasmine
well.
did an amazing job, and I'll be looking for distribution. There were tears, there were laughter, it was
Oh,
wonderful to finally have a U.S. showing of it. And there will
so
be more.
this Monday, correct me if I'm wrong here. So there's this big solar eclipse happening on Monday, and they
So
always
cold.
they always say this is not going to happen for another X hundreds a year. Doesn't that happen every few years? This happens. Like if you don't see this, you're gonna miss it. It's like, well, there was just one
Yeah,
like
I
six
don't
years
know.
ago.
I mean,
I don't
who's
get it.
making such a big deal about this? When the thing is, if you really want like a celestial, terrestrial, interstellar, or galactic experience, all you have to do is go to the NASA website, and you're going to see shit that's
Oh yeah.
literally out of this world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is where I
Um,
go.
well, Christian Nolan had an out of this world or whatever how you want to see it experience. Was at some crappy rock concert. Decided to go stage diving, hit his head, and then got a concussion. And they checked out, and that's when they discovered this brain tumor. And they're like, we need to remove it immediately. It's malignant, and but it was like kind of clustered around his motor skills section of the
Oh,
brain.
terrible.
And he's like, I'm a guitar player. I'm only 25, and this top notch brain surgeon in Miami. He's like, okay, well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do a 2.5 hour brain surgery while you're awake, and you're going to play guitar the whole time. And so when I'm, tugging and pulling and cutting around that area, hey, do you feel that? And in real time, he was talking. It's like, oh yeah, and they successfully cut it out. Hopefully, the person doesn't spread. But the point is, it kind of reminds me of you go to like the Met or something. You see these old medieval paintings of like a brain surgery or something back then.
Is it true that the physical brain does not feel
I've
pain?
I've heard that. I don't know if that's true. I can't
I'm
imagine it
always
is, but
I'm
who
always willing
knows?
to give a trepanation, not go too deep, just a
Well, the
little.
thing is, if you have a big enough tumor or even just a cyst or whatever, and it's putting pressure on the brain, I mean, people do get headaches. But is that
Yeah,
the
yeah, exactly.
brain feeling it, or just pressure on the nerves on your skull?
Exactly. Yeah,
I don't
right.
know.
Exactly. Now, I need more
I
research
don't
on
know
that.
that
But
one. I
but
don't.
anyway, I do love my medical research. So right now, I'm very interested in this new discovery. So, international research team led by RMIT University has designed and manufactured a virus-killing surface that could help control diseases in hospitals, labs, other high-risk environments. So the surface of this thing is made of silicone and covered in tiny nanospikes that skewer viruses on contact. I just
Oh,
love this
cool.
idea. So lab tests with as it's called the HPIV3 virus, which causes bronchitis, pneumonia, showed 96% of the viruses were either ripped apart by this little spiky demon
Cool.
or damaged to the point where they can no longer replicate to cause infection. So, and they showed the materials promise of helping control the transmission of biological material in laboratories. And
It sounds promising. It also sounds a little scary. I mean, these nano hucklebuckles, basically.
I love that.
That's. I mean, it seems like
Well, let me
they
just
could cause
describe
other
it for.
problems. I just think it would
Let
cause.
me just describe it for a minute. So, our virus-killing surface looks like a flat black mirror to the naked eye, but actually has tiny spikes designed to specifically kill viruses,
Yeah.
and it can be incorporated into commonly touched devices like various surfaces. So, it's better than a spray disinfectant, which a lot of these disinfectants are just fucking other forms of cancer causing.
Sure. Sure.
Anyway, the
Sure. Sure.
paper for those of you interested, which might only be me and Tim, piercing of the human para-influenza virus by nanostructured surfaces. Oh God, that's a wet dream. Anyway, just saying.
I call them nano hucklebugs, which is
Nano hucklebuggles. All right. Well, call it what you will.
well,
I love the thought.
Chris Smelly, that's his real name.
Oh.
Chris Smelly decided to take a little kayak out, and well, the weather changed, the wind, and he took one out without a phone, without a watch, without a life jacket, and next thing you know,
where was Mr.
Gulf of Mexico
Oh,
somewhere, and then. Well, the Coast Guard did discover him. He's lucky. It was just before the sun went down. It was nothing historic, but it was a solid 12 hours, and you couldn't see land anymore.
Gosh.
And he's on a kayak, so he thought he was gonorrhea, but he managed to live. Chris Smelly, still alive.
Well, I don't know what to say about that guy, but it's interesting because we have Nasalrod on the show.
Oh yeah.
So I guess the Smelly is a good, it's connected to that. I don't know. So, Timothy Doll, you're good at quizzes. So the most expensive thing on earth sells for 140 million a gram. Could you even imagine what it might be?
Some form of platinum or something? No, platinum's not that expensive. 100. Oh, uranium? I don't fucking know.
Well, let's just put it this way: the second most expensive thing on the planet is antimatter. Good luck trapping some of that. No, actually, hang on. Actually, if you can trap antimatter, it's estimated at a cost of $49 trillion. But if you could trap it, right, it could.
So there's a hypothetical question.
It could power everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's like buying a mini black hole in the black market. I mean, like, what does that go for?
Yeah, well, so anyway, the scientists at the Oxford-based startup designer Carbon Materials developed this substance that sold the first 200 milligrams of the stuff for 110 million. And in simple terms, for all of us out there, nitrogen atom-based endohedral fullerenes. It consists of a cage of carbon atoms containing nitrogen atoms. So they can significantly enhance physical and electronic properties compared to normal ones. So for instance, it's just this stuff, if they could ever truly capture it, can just about power everything. And it's interesting because in one of my favorite books, The Field by Lynn McTaggart, she talks about that spooky substance in space that NASA was not, but now the Pentagon is now interested in, which is basically the electricity that is out there in outer space, of which we cannot capture because
so this is a theoretical or theoretical.
Well, I mean, they're working on it, so it's the next revolution for atomic clocks. They said, just unbelievable. Anyway, carbon atoms they come in many forms. I mean, diamond, right? Atoms,
sure.
And the atomic clock, they're saying, are room size. So what they're trying to do is make a chip that could go into your mobile phone that will then have all kinds of applications for technology. In other words, you may never need to charge your phone again. But anyway,
that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah, well, I'd like to throw mine out the window. And I'm only on the second floor.
Oh boy.
So, well, there we go. And
there we go.
We're going to be ships, not like the one in Baltimore that collapsed the bridge, passing in the night on Monday. And
on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, right? But in the meantime, I will be hanging out with Simon Slater in a few days.
Yes, you will.
He'll be coming to my show at the Monty with Greg Foreman on Friday night. So I'll be hanging out with him.
That'll be a thing.
It'll be a thing. So anyway, I guess we're just going to wrap this one up and tie it up and say it's been another enjoyable lifetime spent in one day on the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl.
Correct.
This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and chairman of Nasalrod, who's just released a dual LP with Victim's Family. By the way, Nasalrod, the name, I love that it comes from Screaming Jay Hawkins' bone in the nose. Is that true?
That's true.
You're a weirdo. Welcome to the show. So, Chairman, we just met.
Yep.
Where? Why don't you tell that story?
Yeah, I want to know it.
A couple of days ago at Star Theater, Lydia was performing, headlining
In
Star
Port
Theater.
in Portland, which is a beautiful place. Wonderful
Yeah,
show.
great venue. And we were we were attempting to try to get Lydia to be a part of the Nasalrod video, but
Which features, I guess, Jello Biafra and Leaving of Fear. Ah,
it sure
but
does.
carry on. I want to hear the rest of this because there was a little tickle at the end of this story.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell a bit of it. So I'm like, I'd never heard of Nasalrod, but I'm very open. I said, what are the lyrics, which I liked very much. And I'm like, and it goes, well, you could kick me in the balls or you could pick me. I'm like, you know what? Come over here. So I gave him a little tickle in the balls and a hug. Okay, well, I don't do that for free. Get out of here, kid. But I have to say,
More like a tickle in the pickle, but okay.
a tickle
Well,
on the pickle.
I had said that was on my bucket list, so it was it was all fair.
I'm glad you enjoyed our initial meeting. But anyway, there was something about you that I have to say was so charming and weird that I just couldn't stop talking to you. And I thought, come on, you got to do something. And then I checked out the music, and it's really interesting because it's harsh, hard, groovy, catchy, weird, arty, not proggish, not hardcore. And it's a very unique blend of stuff. So I'm always interested in stuff I don't know, I haven't heard, and that it defies categories. So welcome to the podcast, Chairman.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, we get that a lot. Genre bending is a term that comes up a lot in reviews and stuff like that, which same terms usually apply to victim's family, which is why we go well with those guys.
I get gender bending that comes out a lot because I like to bend all genders and do not define me by what's between my legs at any given time. I could
Absolutely.
be sitting on the devil's tongue, you never know.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I agree.
Hell no. So is Victim's family out of Portland? So Nasalrod is out of Portland.
Yeah, victim's family's out of Santa Rosa.
Okay.
They started in the mid 80s. They were on in the 90s. They were on did quite a few albums on Alternative Tentacles, and two of the guys actually
Jello Biafra's label, right? Correct.
Right. Two of the guys from Victim's family actually play for Jello Biafra right now. Ralph and Larry from Victim's family play for Jello Biafra in the Guantanamo School of Medicine right now, and that's how we met him. We met Biafra through those guys, and we sent him the song. He liked it, so he agreed to be in the video. So
which song is the new video that you tried to get me in, but instead I have you on my podcast?
Right. That is for The Maker, which is on the album that we just released. But we're going to come out with a video for a good amount of time after the album was actually released, which is not how most bands are supposed to do things. But we're not a band that does things the way that bands are supposed to do things. So yeah.
Of course you're not. And also, your drummer is quite notorious because he was in Fear.
Yep, he is the original. Well, he's the classic lineup of Fear, Spit Sticks. He's also currently in Fear again as well. And he told me he played on the Stinkfist EP.
Well, you know what? I mean, quite possibly he did. That's a long time ago, and there were, I think, 7, 8, or 10. I don't know how many drummers, but
it's a million drummers on that thing, like Cliff Martinez and DJ Bonebreak is on there.
All masters, including Spit Sticks. The only memory I have of Fear, the group, is I believe Eight Eyed Spy played with them once at the Mabuhay or someplace in San Francisco. And I remember, this could be confused with other memories, but I remember somebody insisting I step on their hands on stage, which of course I did. And I think somebody got stabbed in the head, maybe during Fear or Eight Eyed Spy. Blood under the bridge, as I like to say, blood under the bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of blood under the bridge with that band for sure. We did a show not last New Year's Eve, but the one before that. We opened for Fear, so Spit, our drummer, did double duty, and that was a lot of fun. And Millions of Dead Cops was on that show too. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And by the way,
we had Dave on.
We had Dave on, and that's as another person I hadn't met in the flesh and met on the podcast, and he was just great. I mean, look, we feature all kinds of people here, but it's important to us too to go to the classic relentless, stubborn, will not stop nor die. And hence Jerry Lang on the show in Portland was great to have him on. We've had him on the podcast too of Poison Idea. That was a great bill in Portland.
He's absolutely fantastic. We're gonna film him for that video, and his reading from his book brought me to tears that night. That was just an incredible, and of course your set was totally inspiring, and the dude that you were touring with was also
Joseph
amazing.
Keckler. Yeah,
he was great.
Yeah, none of us fit in anywhere, so that's why we hang together. That's why we're here today.
Yeah, and it was like a combination of just I love the humor, combined with the seriousness of what everyone was talking about, talking about very heavy, serious things, but not without humor. And I really appreciate that. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah, because you're a chuckle fucker yourself.
Absolutely.
Which is why I had a great time talking to you. I'm like, all right, you can ask me anything you want. I mean, I ask people for anything all the time, but that you insisted to just continue hanging, I liked, and you were a chuckle fucker. So I'm like, hey, I hang with the chuckle fuckers.
What kind of humor do you not like?
Oh man, I get pretty lowbrow.
Cool.
Growing up watching movies like DC Cab and things like this, and Over the Edge, and I appreciate a lot of lowbrow humor. There's not, I'm pretty open minded with a lot of different types of humor.
Also, when you say, when I think about Nasalrod and what I've been investigating in the music, it's not a yuck funny. It's this shit is real serious and so stupid. I almost have to laugh at it.
Yeah.
Meaning the subject matter, like authoritarianism or
there's subtext. It sounds like I haven't seen.
Exactly. I mean, I think I'm funny as fuck, and when people meet me, they realize that. But often they just like to paint their fear on my fucking face and think, "Oh my god, can't talk to her."
Yeah. The on our record, it's definitely we're tackling a lot of pretty serious subjects, as is Victim's Family, both on our split record. It's a split full-length LP, so it's 5 songs from each band on the record that just came out, which is called In the Modern Meat Space, Victim's Family and Nasalrod in the Modern Meat Space. So it's
what is that self-released, or who put that out? I know it's on Bandcamp.
It's released actually by our bass player's label called Nadine Records, and she put it out, and we're really excited about that.
I love the artwork on it. The artwork is very cool.
It's our buddy Brian Nothing, who's a mutual friend of both bands. He lives in Philadelphia. Yeah,
really cool art. I like that. And lowbrow. Good lowbrow. There we go.
And he's a painter, and he did a bang up job with that. And I mean, certain songs on our record, some are more serious than others. We have a song called Get a Life or a Coffin. That one is the more
title and loved it.
Yeah, that one's a little more lighthearted. That's bringing out my more Cheap Trick power pop kind of influence or whatever. Although we tend to get compared to more like to bands like No Means No and stuff like that, but I'm actually a pretty diehard Cheap Trick fan, although you wouldn't necessarily note that by listening to our band.
Well, they're No Means No and Cheap Trick differ enough that you can be both fans.
Yeah. We like to bring in an amalgamation of different kinds of influences. I'm probably the only guy in our band that's diehard Cheap Trick fan, whereas everyone else in the band has different tastes, and we bring it all together. And I think that's what makes it unique.
What about late '80s housewife Cheap Trick, like The Flame? Can you get down with that stuff? Like
I support The Flame because I'll tell you why.
Because you two are going to be buddies. Oh my god!
I'll tell you why. Because it showcases Robin Zander's voice. He's just an amazing vocalist, and even though they didn't write the song, it showcases his voice beautifully, and he's just a great singer.
Chairman, I don't know this song, so I'm wondering if you could just sing me a couple of lines.
Go for it.
I don't know the words. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying. You see, I'm asking. You could say no, but I'm asking.
It's like a synth pop from the late '80s for like house.
Oh, I want to hear a few lines. It
is a cheesy ballad. It might be Cheap Trick's only #1 on Billboard. It's like, wherever you go, I'll be with you.
That's it.
And he hits a super high note at the end of the song. I will be the flame. He gets real.
I knew you could do it, and I'm happy you did. Because
he nails it live too, and it's like, and everyone's like, "Holy shit!" It's pretty amazing. It's a cheesy song. The band itself, I think the band was actually sort of ashamed of it when it came out, even though it hit #1. But it revived the band, and it was
it's interesting because that was during the same time when Aerosmith went housewife. And so, but it's funny because they're basically presented, Aerosmith was, and I assume it's the same situation. It's like, guys, your numbers are going down. We're going to bring in this team of songwriters and these arrangers. And here's
Tim,
your choice.
I question. Yeah, so Tim, what was the first or one of the Aerosmith housewife songs? I need to know. When
you're my angel.
Never heard it.
It's called Angel or
oh God,
Jamie's Got a Gun.
I mean, I wonder would the collaboration with Run DMC count? Or,
no. The collaboration with Run DMC is why they had a second chance, because they're such fuck ups. And they went from arenas to bars, you know.
Well, and you know the story. You know my story with Aerosmith.
Oh, and I want to hear that in a second. But so basically, the execs went to him, was like, "Okay, guys, you're lucky you got this second chance with this Rick Rubin, you know, deciding to ask Run DMC to do a cover.
Walk this way."
And so they're like, "But guess what? You guys are such fuck ups that your second chance is going to be under our watch."
Right.
And they said, okay, and then they got gazillions of dollars, and they said, you know what, I guess we're going to run with this.
Then they bring in guys
DMC.
like and then eventually they bring in guys like Desmond Child, who's like the quintessential dude that like writes 80s hits for people and stuff.
But there was actually a woman was writing a lot, this kind of
a housewife.
Yeah, from Boston was writing a lot of that stuff. But that's besides the point. Why don't you tell us your Aerosmith story?
Two things this little conversation reminded me of, and one is, I guess it was 13, 14, maybe I think 13, and I had my pal across the street who looked like she was 12, probably was, and we'd always go to the concerts, get backstage because we knew the promoter. We went backstage for Aerosmith, which were, by the way, shorter than me at 12, kind of disappointing. And Steven Tyler, and at the time we didn't consider any of this salacious as we do now. It's like, oh my God. I mean, it's 73. I was into fucking the musicians, but my girlfriend was a virgin, but Steven Tyler was after her hardcore. I'm like, don't you put a finger on her. She's a virgin. Leave her alone, which he didn't. Glory be to the fact he could control himself. But that brought me up the conversation here when you mentioned Run DMC. Tim, have you seen in the news this week? This might be old news, but I just was told about it, that Ice Cube is coming out saying that Gangsta Rap was a CIA op.
I mean, listen. We can go deep into that.
And also just one more thing, and that Diddy and Michael Jackson had the same body, had the same security guards. That makes sense. Hello.
Okay, that makes sense. I definitely know that Stuart Copeland from the Police's grandfather basically was the godfather of the CIA, and I didn't think it's a coincidence that three blonde Aryans in the peak of the Cold War suddenly were the biggest stars in a year and globally pushed, just like Levi's and Coca-Cola were. But that's a different.
Are you talking about the Police?
Yeah.
And by the way, let's just give a little shout out, because Chris Campion, one of our favorite guests, wrote a book on the group The Police, which every page is a laugh riot because he hated them so much. And he kind of tells the truth. Oh, disgusting.
The best inside.
I digress.
The best inside story is the Police opened up for Screwdriver once.
Whoa.
That's been taken out of the history books. But
Sherman, it seems like you, like Tim, are an aficionado of really bad 80s pop music just for the sheer joy of it.
Yeah, I know a lot of that stuff. I do want to state for the record that obviously my favorite Cheap Trick stuff is the 1970s material.
For the record,
I like the one cheesy ballad they came out with because it showcases his voice really well, but for the record, it's the 1970s.
But here's a deeper question. For all the 70s rocker bands that did go late 80s MIDI synth pop housewife music, who do you think realized the housewife synth pop music the best? I have my own opinion. We haven't mentioned them yet.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't know because I hate that shit. Go ahead, Chairman. It's up to you.
Yeah, I have maybe it's Cheap Trick. You said you like the Flame.
I mean, I think Cheap Trick kind of later on they started coming out with better records in the 90s when they weren't like under the control of producers like Richie Zito and stuff.
Right,
like
but
that,
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about late 80s MIDI synth housewife pop that was converted from real 70s rocker bands.
Okay, I give up. Who's your band?
Heart.
Okay,
listen, I'm not talking about any of these bands in the 70s. I'm just saying who realized who came from that. I think Hart did the best job of that, but that's for other people to challenge me on.
I should cover Barracuda, but I'm going to change it.
Well, that's a 70s hit.
I'm going to change it to Barracuda.
That's a good one.
You know,
I don't know if it's so good anyway.
All right. So, I mean,
I want to go back to this. So also, No Trend. Were you a fan of No Trend? Do you know the group No Trend, Sherman?
I know of them. I'm not super familiar, to be totally honest.
Well, the reason why I always think about them because they were so weird and hated by everybody. But they also had, I urge you to investigate Too Many Fucking Humans, You Breed Like Rats, and You're No Fucking Better. Quick 2 seconds to non-existence, because I think you'll appreciate 3 of the band members committed suicide. That's not why I'm into them. They also were genre beyond a genre that anybody can nail, and very weird and very hated. You seem to probably have a lot of fans, though, Nasal.
Yeah, I appreciate bands that are misunderstood. You know.
So what do you think about Anal Cunt? Do you think they were misunderstood?
They probably are misunderstood by a wide segment of the population. Yes, I would say. I would say
yes.
That.
Yes,
You know?
I mean, and it's interesting about Seth Putnam because he had his own issues, and he made sure he disrupted the situation on any given night. Now he'd either get the whole club to attack him, or he would get the whole club behind him and they would attack the security guards or the police. So there was definitely, it was going to sway somewhere. A tsunami is going to happen. And then
Chairman, have you ever had physical violence, attack, stupid people? Of course, there's always stupid people in the audience as well as geniuses, no doubt. Have you faced much physical interruption?
The craziest one was last time we played in San Francisco with Victim's Family at the bottom of the hill.
Oh God, yeah.
Biafra was there. This is crazy. This really big guy was just wasted, and he grabbed my foot and he actually pulled me down from the stage onto the ground. And I was singing, and I just felt my foot being grabbed, and before you know it, I was on the just pulled down to the floor, and he wouldn't let go either. And he had both of his arms around my feet, so I couldn't even kick him or anything. It's like,
was he trying to kidnap you? What the fuck?
It was really weird. And then
he
hog-tied you with his arms. You were hog-tied by his arms.
Yeah, more or less. Were
you scared? Were you scared, or you just kind of were?
I was so focused on trying to keep the song going that that I was, because I luckily I have a wireless mic, so I actually kept singing while this was going on.
Well, why didn't you just nut him in the fucking nugget?
It's like I couldn't really, because his grabbed my legs. And then when I finally got free, I was just focused on keeping the song going. So I actually just got back up on stage, and the guy was just kind of wasted, lying on the ground. And then I just finished the song. So there was actually no interruption to the song because I had a wireless mic.
What a master!
And then the guy eventually got kicked out of the bottom of the hill, out of the club.
You kept on going, or just because of that specific act?
Yeah, I just kept going through the song.
No, but did this guy continue to behave? Yeah, did he continue to behave in bad ways, and that's why he's kicked out?
He didn't really keep. He kind of did that one thing, and then he wandered away, and then eventually got kicked out.
Yeah, I mean, what's the follow up to hog-tying somebody with your fucking arms? I mean, that's a pretty good opening and closing move if you're a maniac.
Yeah. I was just glad that I was able to handle it without the song being interrupted. So that was
well done.
And I'm also glad that guy got kicked out. So yeah.
Oh, you're show folk. The show must go on. And plus, if he's got you by the feet, your arm might not even be able to reach his freaking head.
Yeah. I think other people kicked his arm or something like that, and that's how I was able to get free or whatever.
Too bad Eugene Robinson wasn't in the audience. That would have been a good shakedown. Yeah.
Yeah. I do you like karaoke?
Tim, that was on my mind to ask also, since he did such a good job with the Cheap Trick. I felt a little karaoke under there.
Yeah. Okay. So in Portland, there's this thing called Karaoke from Hell, which is a live band that has a repertoire of a bunch of songs they do, like 200, 300 songs, and Surrender by Cheap Trick is one of them. So I've appeared with them a couple times where I sing that song with them, which is a song that Joey Ramone once went on stage with Cheap Trick and sang with Cheap Trick at a Lollapalooza one time. But anyway,
which Lollapalooza?
It was probably, I don't know.
Who the fuck knows?
The one where the whole place was basically burnt down, like 99 or whatever.
I'm not sure which one it was, to be honest.
I was hoping it was that one.
There's a small clip on YouTube of it that probably.
Could Joey Ramone actually sing anything other than the Ramones?
I don't know, but Surrender's easy enough to sing. But yeah, he went out on stage and sang it with them at this one Lollapalooza. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I do, of course, I like Cheap Trick, but I like other kinds of music as well, obviously.
I want to know more about the karaoke songs you choose. Come on.
Surrender is about the only one, except for one time I did the Small Faces.
So now you're talking my favorite, one of my favorite groups.
I'm big on Steve Marriott, and I did All or Nothing with Small Faces because I love that stuff. I love a lot of 60s music, whether it be Small Faces or
Love the Small Faces,
or bands like this. I'm a Steve Marriott freak. I just love, especially in Small Faces. I love that stuff.
Which band do you hate the most? Or your top 3 most hated bands?
Where do we begin?
I'm not 100%. I don't like to rain on people's parade publicly usually, but I mean, I will say that I'm not like, I'll say that certain bands that aren't my scene would be in the realm of like Fish and String Cheese Incident and,
jam bands. You're not into jam bands.
It's not really my cup of tea. No,
you don't hate them?
I'm telling you, number one on my hate list. And I was in a bar last night and they were playing a freaking song. I thought it was the Chipmunks. And I went and said, who chose this music? And the chubby bearded man, what is it called when they have man bun beast said I did. I said, well, your taste in music sucks.
What was it? What was the music?
It was Hole in the Soul by ABBA. I thought it was the Chipmunks. I hate ABBA. And that song, which I never heard before, was the worst thing I'd ever heard in my life.
I don't know if I know that one. Okay.
Well, you know what? Don't ever. Well, you might like it.
No, I don't know. I'm not a big ABBA fan.
I am the largest hater of ABBA.
But
wait, the guy next to me goes, oh, but it's a crowd pleaser. I go, I am a one-woman army. I am not a crowd. I hate it. Shut up.
Good response. I mean, ABBA does. I do like musical sociopaths, like Frank Farian, the producer, and so the thing is, during the ABBA thing, he did a Bonnie M, which is so bad, but then he went on to do Milli Vanilli and La Bouche and I do like
real good record.
I know I like musical sociopaths. I like musical sociopaths. People
who knows everything about music and loves great music also loves the worst fucking music. Well, for some reason he takes joy in torturing other people.
I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm more inspired by music from movies. I'm a big movie freak. So like especially in the 1970s and stuff, like I get really into scores and things like that. I'm big on The Conversation with Gene Hackman, 1964. That's music by David Shire, the husband of Talia Shire at the time. He did the score for The Conversation, and that thing just blows me away. It sticks in my head, I can't get it out of my head. The music from movies like that and The Warriors and Taxi Driver and stuff like that.
And also that brings us up to a project you did that was based on a Matt Dillon film, which you were telling me about that.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Tell me about that project.
Yeah, sure. So that was my prior band, Drats, DRATS, 3 exclamation points. That band did a thing where we did a 30-minute rock operetta based on the movie Over the Edge, which is Matt Dillon's first film from 1979. So
saw it.
Great film.
So basically that directed by the great Jonathan Kaplan, who also did Truck Turner. But yeah, he's amazing. But anyway, what we did at 30 minutes worth of songs based on the movie, and the screenwriters caught wind of it and they liked it, and which was very the highest honor for us, because one of the screenwriters is Tim Hunter, who also directed River's Edge.
Which is great, yeah.
And the other screenwriter is Charlie Haas, who worked with Joe Dante a whole bunch. He wrote a movie called Matinee with John Goodman. He wrote the sequel to Gremlins. Did Dante,
Gremlins 2 is pretty good.
Maniac, was that a Dante film or not? Maniac.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think Maniac was Joe Dante.
I don't know.
Joe Dante is coming out with a movie called Little Shop of Halloween Horrors that is apparently going to be produced by a 97-year-old Roger Corman, who's somehow still hanging in there.
One for the kids.
Yeah. And Charlie Haas, who wrote Over the Edge, is who's my buddy now. He's involved as well. But anyway, because the screenwriters dug it and stuff like that, we were able to get the album out there pretty good. Vice magazine wrote an article about it, and amazingly, a couple years ago, Arrow Video from the UK came out with the first official Blu-ray for Over the Edge, and I caught wind of it, and I got Arrow Video to put my band's prior album based on the movie on the Blu-rays and special.
Oh, that's grand. And see what you do. You got a hold of them. You asked. They said yes. That's what you got to do. People should not be shy to ask. There's only two answers: yes or no.
Absolutely.
I'm very much for asking. That's why I respect that you asked me, even though I said no. Then I asked you, and you said yes. That's
absolutely.
Did you ever see the movie Frankenhooker?
Oh, a long time ago. That's a classic. That's hilarious.
So I haven't seen this movie that won all the awards. Was it called Poor Things? But I heard that's a ripoff of Frankenhooker.
Well, I haven't seen it either. Yeah.
Haven't seen that one either.
No,
I'll have to get to it.
Yeah, I think I heard it was a ripoff of Frankenhooker.
Oh, tell us some more movies that really influenced you in the 70s,
70s. Okay. Well, I mean, I'd say, my number one is probably Blue Collar, which is written and directed by Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver. And this is directorial debut from Paul Schrader, who was just coming off of having written Taxi Driver. And Richard Pryor, weirdly, he put, people think of him as just a comedian, but he puts in this incredible dramatic performance in Blue Collar. It's really inspiring, and it's kind of a neo-noir meets the struggles of the working class. And
who else stars in that?
It also has Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel, right?
And it also has the great, may you rest in peace, the great Yaphet Kotto. Before Yaphet Kotto was an alien, he was in Blue Collar a year.
Don't you have a song dedicated?
We sure do. We have a song called Yaphet Kotto Made My Day in Nasalrod.
I did my homework. Homework.
Nasalrod has a song called Yaphet Kotto Made My Day, inspired by all of his movies. There's a scene in Truck Turner, which is from the director of Over the Edge, where he spits on this guy's grave, and it made my day. So it kind of just comes from me watching that scene in Truck Turner, where Yaphet Kotto made my day by spitting on this dude's grave in this movie. And then we reference other movies such as Blue Collar and Alien in the same song, and so on and so
forth. Alien.
Yeah, he was Parker in Alien.
Alien. Ultimate sexual fantasy is the alien monster.
Right.
Maybe I am the alien monster if you can only see what I look like. But very sexy.
Going back to Richard Pryor, I mean, this is the thing. Whenever they give these awards to the best actor, comedic acting is really hard, and so for comedic actors to do a more serious role, they can do it. Serious actors trying to be comedic,
terrible.
It's usually pretty terrible. And then of course going to Harvey Keitel, I always thought the original Bad Lieutenant was a comedy. If it's viewed as a comedy, it's one of the best comedies of all time.
Right. Yeah. Keitel's amazing in Blue Collar as well.
What about Fingers, Sherman? Did you ever see that with Harvey Keitel?
I love Fingers.
Oh yeah,
I love Fingers. Yeah, that's a good one.
What about Who's That Knocking?
That's the Scorsese's first movie. I dig that too. Yeah, which uses a song that of course became much more widely known from
Apocalypse Now. You know what? Look, you and I know this because I saw that film in Barcelona, 6 a.m. Turner Classic Network one day, and they have a scene. And a lot of people haven't seen that film, and Harvey Keitel is looking for a wife, a girlfriend, and he finds one that he really likes, but she's been raped. His Catholic guilt will let him. But there's a scene where they're in this kind of open loft room. It's a wrought iron bed, and the camera's going over the bed and around, as with different women changing. And the fan is above. I think there's a fan in the ceiling, and they're playing the end, and then Hello Apocalypse Now, same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. See? Yep. And it
I don't even know anybody that saw that film except for me and you. Yes.
Yep. It used amazingly well. I'm a Scorsese freak. Mean Streets, I feel, is Scorsese's first masterpiece. Who's That Knocking is great, but Mean Streets is, I think, his first masterpiece.
What about Hi Mom?
Hi Mom's cool. That's Brian De Palma. That's it. I saw that. Actually, I saw that recently for the first time. I had never seen it, but I've never
even heard about it. And again, I saw it in Barcelona, 6 a.m. Barcelona when I was living there. Had Turner Classic movies that I never saw in America. Hi Mom being one of them.
Yep. De Palma and De Niro. I feel like De Niro's first couple early screen roles is him teaming up with De Palma, and I feel like De Palma is kind of the guy that that got that hooked up Scorsese with De Niro, rather.
Another film around that time, just throwing out there, not related to the same actors, but same period, maybe a little earlier. I think it's Nicky and Mickey or Mickey and Nicky.
Great movie. It's directed by Elaine May.
Yeah, which was, you'd never imagine. That's Cassavetes and Peter Falk.
Yep, a fantastic movie. Yep, I love Elaine May. She's great. Of course, she did The Heartbreak Kid. She's a fantastic writer and underrated director. Yeah, I really dig Elaine May. But yeah, Mickey and Nicky.
Okay, I'm going to throw another one at you that I saw recently, and this is, I don't know anybody that has seen this. One-time director only, Coming Apart, Rip Torn.
Wow.
I'm stumping you. Am I stumping you?
You stumped me on that one.
All right. One room. Rip Torn is a therapist. Only women clients having a sexual nervous breakdown. Wow. Sally Kellerman. Need I say more? The room has a wall of windows behind him. And it's, sexy wackadoodle. Rip Torn, Coming Apart. It's out there. I just saw it again recently.
Wow. Well, you had me at Sally Kellerman. I'm gonna have to see that. I'm a big Sally Kellerman fan. May she rest in peace. She passed away pretty recently. Loved her in the movie Foxes with Jodie Foster, which is another one of my favorites. It's sort of the I'd say kind of like over the edge with women. It's great.
What about Out of the Blue?
Out of the Blue's fantastic. I love that one. Dennis Hopper directed that. That's great. And Linda Mann.
Who just died recently.
May she rest in peace. Yeah, I love her. She's great doing the narration in Days of Heaven, Terrence Malick's film. She did that and Out of the Blue, and she was in like one other. Oh, she's in the movie The Wanderers too. Yeah, she's Linda Mann is awesome. Yeah, she's
going back to film score. Going back to
Out of the Blue is very nihilistic, and I appreciate that about that.
And Dennis Hopper's right. No, it's a great film.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't like movies that much, but that's besides the point. I like some.
I like some. All right, Tim. Tim likes comedies.
Go. Going back to film score. So most film score is those composers, most of it's derivative from, the masters of the classical and through composed music. And it's there to accompany a film and make the film, enhance the film or, back it up. Are you a fan of composers that have nothing to do with film score? The stuff that the people that a lot of that's derived from. Do you listen to that kind of music?
Composers just composers in general, right?
Yeah. Through compose. So yeah, like not like necessarily a jazz.
I can get into that. My father was in the Cleveland Orchestra for 30 years.
Whoa! What did he play?
So I grew up going to Cleveland Orchestra concerts. He was third trumpet assistant to the.
Well, I was about to ask because Cleveland Orchestra has one of the best brass sections in the world, or did for a while. It was famous for that.
Yeah,
so he must have been a fucking motherfucker. That's impressive.
And it shows what's a small world this is, because I become friends with the screenwriter of Over the Edge, Charlie Haas. We recently discovered that his older brother, Ken Haas, was the general manager of the Cleveland Orchestra in the 70s and worked with my dad in the 70s. So just really weird.
It all comes around. Well,
all comes around.
We like to call it the connective tissue on the Lydian Spin, because people just, people are introduced as we never knew and then become friends. We learn new stuff all the time, meet new people all the time. And it is, you meet the people you're supposed to meet. That's it.
Absolutely.
And it comes together and it's just very, so you grew up in Cleveland then?
Yep, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, the mistake on the lake, if you will.
But do you play trumpet?
No, I don't play trumpet. I just, I play keyboards, I play bass, and I sing. In Nasalrod, I just sing. And I do have a solo thing called the Chair Project where I play bass and sing. And then my old band.
What kind of stuff is that like? What's the Chair Project like? What's that like?
It's a little more introspective, quieter kind of stuff. Although I do, I sometimes do belt things out. It goes from like falsetto-y to like belting it out, like sometimes in the course of a single song. It's like but it is of course overall quieter music, since it is just electric bass and vocals. That's all it is. I don't use any pedals or anything like that. I just play bass lines I wrote and write songs that I wrote over that and stuff like that.
Have you ever done or thought about doing spoken word? You love to talk. Like I love to talk, so sometimes just want to get paid for it.
Hasn't really crossed my mind. Although watching you the other night, I was inspired, and Jerry, but yeah. I am suggesting to you. I think you do
we'd like to hear your real stories out there. We need more stories out there. I love spoken word. I'm not giving it up. And I think it's very important to hear stories like what Jerry Lang told. And, words are important. That's why we write them.
Absolutely.
Did you hang, was your father social? Did you hang in the whole classical music high level world when you were in Cleveland, or was he kind of did his job and just came home?
Well, I'm growing up. I'm just a little kid, it's basically like, sometimes I would go backstage or something. He would invite our parents would have gatherings at our homestead and whatnot, and people from the orchestra would come over. So I'd meet certain orchestra members that way, and so on and so forth. Some orchestra members I got to know better than others. Obviously, it's a big orchestra and all that. But yeah, I mean, I got to obviously meet some of them just through gatherings my parents would have at our house and so on and so forth. But I was always kind of more of a it's weird. I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have growing up. As you're a kid.
Yeah, how can you? It's your
Yeah,
parents.
you're a kid. You're just you're trying not to drop your you're trying not to drop your M&Ms while the
well, there's the other point because I love
while the martinis are being poured.
There you go. I mean, I love complex music. I love all that stuff. But if I'm really honest with myself, as a kid, it was just above my head. And although I've grown to really love it and know it,
and can play it.
Yeah, literally
complex music.
Yeah, professionally. So, but if I'm really honest with myself, it wasn't like this thing that I just as a kid, I want to check this out. I was into fucking rock and roll and was on the radio, and then it just kind of gateway.
Yeah.
So Chairman, back to you about, so Dad's the trumpet player in this orchestra. Oh, well, who cares? What are you listening to as a youngster what started to turn you on and turn you to want to do music? Like, what's the earliest shit you're like, oh yeah, that's for me?
Yeah, well, of course, growing up in Cleveland, you got the blue collar classic rock station shoved down your damn throat,
Yeah,
and MTV, of course, and stuff like that. So in the 1980s MTV, I'm like all being shoved down my throat. But listening to a lot of lame shit. I was probably into a lot of pretty crappy stuff. It took me a while to have a little bit of a more sophisticated taste in music. Although because I went to so many classical music concerts, I think some of that seeped into me, even though I didn't really appreciate it that much. I think I absorbed it anyway. I sort of,
and I think it benefits your music actually.
Yeah,
I actually do think it benefits your music specifically.
Yeah, I feel like going to those concerts, even if I didn't know. Even if I wouldn't admit to myself that I liked any of it or whatever, I think it seeped into me. But growing up, there were certain things that I really enjoyed. I loved all the classics growing up. I was really big on the Who, and I still am. I'm big on Keith Moon and his drum style, and I like these bands that have a sense of humor. That's one of the reasons I like Cheap Trick so much.
And Tommy, which I saw again not that long ago.
Yeah,
what mania! I mean,
absolutely.
Uncle Ernie, all of it, and the whole concept of it is just so bizarre.
Yeah.
They originally wanted Rod Stewart to play the keyboard, the pinball wizard.
Oh wow,
that makes sense.
a little rock.
Well, Pete Townsend and Rod Stewart are buds. Would you consider, the Who? I mean, so what do you think of prog rock? I mean, isn't that what Tommy ultimately is, like rock operas? It's like a form of prog rock,
right? It's I can appreciate some of that kind of stuff. I guess I was really always more into just like the more straight ahead rock. I feel like I was always kind of more into like Cheap Trick and the Who and stuff like that, as opposed to some of these bands like Yes and Rush and things like this growing up. But I heard all that stuff and I appreciated all that stuff. It's whether you're like those bands or not, they have an original thing going on, and there's things you can absorb from those.
Well, also they were very conceptual. I mean, even if they weren't concept rock, so many bands in the late 60s, early 70s, they really had a concept sound.
Right.
And I appreciate that because I feel I'm a musical conceptual. Like I decide on a certain sound. I find the people that can help me realize that. So I just have many different concepts, but even Yes, who I don't like, it's kind of a concept sound. And that also impacted me. But, like Bowie impacted me because he was a conceptualist who always changed everything he did. And Mick Ronson was very important to me. So
I
Anyway,
love Mick Ronson. I love
Slaughter on 10th Avenue is one of my favorite albums. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Mick
Underrated.
Ronson's collaborations with Ian Hunter solo stuff, and I dig Mata Hoople quite a bit. And
Oh yes. Well, I think Ian Hunter just had a new album out like now.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Which brings me back to another movie that Alice doesn't live here anymore, which beautifully
Oh,
uses
yeah.
Mata Hoople throughout the movie and stuff like that.
So
Yeah.
you're saying for the most part, you kind of had to find your way in terms of your musical tastes because you're just growing up saturated by
Yeah, kind of grew up
classic rock.
like,
So what was the gateway to opening up this whole other universe? Was there a concert you went to that terrified you or just blew your mind? Was there one that you can really remember that changed everything for you?
To help to pervert you to what you are today into the music you make.
one band I really dug. One band that was all over MTV that I thought was actually good when I saw them live was Living Color. Because I like them because they're a band that's misunderstood. They're like too R&B-ish for the people that are into like the heavy rock, and too heavy rock for the people that are into R&B. So I really like that when a band is misunderstood like that. And since their third album, they've got the bass player from Doug Wimbish, who was on the Grandmaster Flash stuff. He's the bass player on The Message. On
I know Doug, and he's from Connecticut originally. But we had Melvin Gibbs on, who was Vernon Reed's his best friend growing up, who was involved with the early projects that Vernon Reed was in before Living Color. Another connection here.
Yeah, he was on Ronald Shannon Jackson, the Dakota Society, and stuff like that.
All that stuff. Yeah.
And so I really appreciate Vernon Reed. I'm a big fan of Vernon Reed. But I like a lot of these bands that are sort of misunderstood, like Living Color and King's X and things like that. But at the same time, I dig all the punk classics too. I mean, obviously, I love the Bad Brains. Obviously, I love Dead Kennedys. Obviously, all these old school things. But I feel like growing up when you just got MTV thrown in your face. If you're to choose something that's thrown in your face from all that junk, I think Living Color was better than a lot of the bands that were all over at MTV at the time. Sure. They were doing something. Even Cult of Personality, just that song by itself. If they didn't do anything else, that song is more is definitely more interesting than a lot of stuff that was going on around that at that time.
So when did you move to Portland? And were you doing music before that? Were you doing music in Cleveland, or did it take for you to get to Portland?
Yeah, I was. I was in bands when I was 14. I had a band called Exit when I was 14, and was in that in high school. Then I went to school in Bloomington, Indiana, and
IU.
Yeah, I went to IU, which is a big deal school for music majors. So
yeah, it's a huge music school.
Yeah, huge music school. So I was in a band where I was not a music major myself, but I was in a band that was it was 50-50. Two of the people in the band were percussion majors, the drummer and the bass player, and two of the people, the singer and the guitarist, were not music majors.
What did you major in?
Being a singer. I was journalism. Yeah.
Okay, well they have a good journalism school too. I mean,
that's why you write the lyrics. That's why you sing the song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I was in a band with a couple of percussion majors. One of the drummer of the band is my buddy Ryan Brown, who now plays for Dweezil Zappa, which makes sense because he would come to band practice and he had already been practicing Zappa stuff for like 3 hours before showing up for band practice. So when he told me he was in the Dweezil Zappa band, which he's been in for years now, I was like, that makes a lot of sense, dude, because you were like playing that stuff like when you were like years ago, like for 3 hours at a time before showing up to our practices.
Well, what years were you there?
I was there 92 to 96.
Okay.
Cleveland.
Bloomington. Well, the producer Simon Slater was not here. He was there at the same time. So maybe you guys crossed paths.
Yeah, but I left Bloomington to come to Portland in 99. So I arrived in Portland in 99.
What made you choose Portland?
I had a bunch of buddies actually from Indiana that moved out to Portland before I did. I basically more or less followed them out to Portland. And they were creative people. They were people that I was playing music with. And then formed a band with my buddy Ned. And we had a band called the Vulture Party right when I moved to Portland, which was 8 people. And it was that was quieter stuff. We would sit down and switch instruments between songs. It was quieter, folksy kind of stuff. And then 2 people left that band. It became 6 people, and that became Drats, which became more of a rockin' thing. And then we did the rock opera based on Over the Edge. And Drats was named Drats was the original title for a movie called Rock and Rule, this 1983 animated movie. And so it means dog rat humanoids, drats. So that's where we got the name of drats from the movie, the working title of Rock and Rule. This animated movie that has music from Iggy Pop and Lou Reed and Cheap Trick and Blondie and stuff like that. And
in mentioning that, it just triggered something in my head about this film you might know about, and I don't know too many people that know about it either, called Hardware, that Iggy Pop plays I think it's just his voice as a DJ, very apocalyptic, by Richard Stanley, I believe. Hardware. Ooh, really apocalyptic. Cool. All right, so I stumped you twice. I'm really happy.
Yeah. Hey, what was the name of your band?
I'm happy.
What was the name of your band at Indiana?
Someone's
asking.
Yeah, I had a band called Tangent in Indiana.
Tangent.
There was one before that called Previously Frozen. Yeah, so I was in a couple bands.
Were you like playing dorms and stuff, or did you guys not play?
It's like in both bands, it's like we were doing like a lot of basement parties and stuff like that. There was a place called the Bluebird that was a club that we played at as well. And doing like basement parties. We joked that we were going on tour to playing basement tours, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Eventually it comes true. Eventually it comes true. So how do you like living in Portland now? I mean, this was my second. I hadn't been in Portland in a really long time. Then I was there about a year ago, and I was there when we met a few days ago. And I was kind of digging it. First of all, the weather was great when I was there. That helped. But it was something is very chill about it. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I dig it.
People are very cool. I love the Star Theater. That was great.
Absolutely.
And, it definitely made me want to come back for a bit more action.
But there's also but from the outside, it's notorious for strip clubs, meth, and there's a skinhead vibe out there too, right?
Yeah, they have
how liberal it is, right?
Yeah, we've got more strip clubs per capita as compared to anywhere else in the country, from what I understand. If that statistic is still true, it definitely was true at one point.
I think Tampa probably.
You'll never be out of a job, Chairman. You can just put a tutu on and go to work.
Yeah. Well, technically, I'm out of a job right now. I'm unemployed, but that's okay.
Maybe you could be the pole cleaner in a strip bar.
Right.
Is Wi-Fi free there?
Wi-Fi is not free here.
Oh, no. Okay. So it's Chattanooga. I think it was in the news because they wanted to do it, but of course, telecommunications.
Well, now, I mean, for a while they tried the experimentation of decriminalizing a lot of drugs, and now they're having to reverse that because it just wasn't as successful as they wanted to be. But I have to say, I have never seen, even in Los Angeles, which is a sprawl of injustice, pulling up to the Star Theater, I saw a convoy of 6 wheelchairs. People in wheelchairs, and I'm like, wow, is this like the wheelchair corner?
Yeah.
It was very strange, but still, the town seems really chill, but active.
Yeah. It's really a great town. I do like living in Portland. I've been here, like I said, since '99, since June of '99, and I like it. Nasalrod plays at really great venues here. There's a venue, Mississippi Studios, that we really like, that we've played at. We're about to do our official album release show is going to be at Polaris Hall, which is a great venue.
When's that happening?
That's going to be happening on Saturday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th. All right.
Yeah.
And do you do a lot of touring? Is it hard to tour? Are you going to be touring for this?
Yeah, we are playing on that. We do have some dates in Seattle lined up. For starters, we're doing definitely playing Saturday, I believe it's July 27th in Seattle. I think we're playing late June 28th or something like that in Seattle as well. And for starters, but then we plan on doing some dates with Victim's family, who they're investigating their drummer is having shoulder health issues. So
gosh.
So yeah. So but
do you have a booking agent?
We don't have a booking agent.
I have one to recommend to you.
Oh, awesome.
I do.
Cool. We'll talk about that. Basically,
I'll just email you his info.
But
you need one.
Our goal is to do a European tour, ideally with Victim's family. If not, we'll do it ourselves. But probably we're shooting to do a European tour with Victim's family because we've never actually been overseas yet. So that's our main goal. And then we're going to do some other touring beyond that. We've done several West Coast tours. We've done an East Coast tour. We have toured quite a bit over the years.
But now you're back. You got to get on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we are
Important.
we are gonna tour the record. We're kind of waiting on Victim's family to figure out their deal before we solidify
Yeah,
our
I mean,
total plans.
shoulder problems for the drummer, not a good sign.
Right, right. So they're figuring that out, and then our goal is to hit Europe with them, since we've especially since we've never done that before. But they have an audience over there that are quite popular over there, from over the years and so on and so forth. So yeah, ideally we're gonna hit Europe with them, and then we have other plans to do some West and East Coast touring and whatnot as well. So yeah.
Well, really good luck with that. This has been and will be, for as long as I can stand it, the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and chairman of Nasalrod. New recordings out now with Victim's Family. It's aggressive, it's groovy, it's weird, it's arty, it's kind of punky. There's just fucking listen to it. It's on Bandcamp. Go buy a song or two. Don't be cheap.
Yep.
And thanks very much, Sherman. I'm going to send you an email with a booking agent concept.
Thanks so much, Lydia.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks so much, Tim. I appreciate you as well. And it's been really great being on this podcast with you here. Yeah, Victim's Family and Nasalrod in the Modern Meat Space is the name of the record. It's available everywhere now.